Right. So today, like from the advert that we sent today, we're going to talk about self-motivation, and I would like to start the discussion today with a question. Okay. How many of us, because me included, how many of us have ever wanted to do something and you failed to do it for whatever reason?
Yeah, times.
How many of us have set up New Year's resolutions and did not fulfill them? How many of us have ever woken up in the morning and said, I want to do this something, and then at the end of the day you didn't do it? Okay. So basically the topic today about self-motivation, mainly that's what we're going to talk about. Because when I was contemplating on this subject, and from the study that I've done on this subject, is that you realize that the underlying factor in most of the situations that we face, that we fail to do what we plan to do or what we intend to do, is because we lack the motivation to get it through. So there are situations that we start something and we fail to finish it. How many have ever started something and didn't finish it? We do that, me included. So basically, it's a very common problem, and it's the thing that if we can get it right, if we can get ourselves in a position where we can do what we say we will do, and do that consistently, I think it would have been really fun. Try to imagine right now how many things you've ever thought of doing in your life. You know, the great ideas you've ever had, anything that has crossed your mind when you thought, you know, this is good, I should do this. Imagine all those things you said, I will do this, I will do that, throughout your life. Okay? Imagine if you would have managed to fulfill all those things today. Where would you be? Have you ever thought about that? I was thinking about that this morning when I woke up. I thought, there are so many things. If I think, let me not go too far. Let me just start from after I finished university. Okay? And I think of everything that I said I was going to do. And I thought, this is great. If I could do this, I would be great. I'm going to do this. If all those things I would have managed to do, where would I be today? Okay? So you realize that the inaction or failure to act on our intentions or on our plans or even on our thoughts impulses is really costs us in a lot of ways. Okay? So I've got this wonderful quote here. I don't know whether you can see it because it's quite low. Can you guys see it from all the way down? It says the only thing standing between you and your goal is the bullshit story you keep telling yourself as to why you can't achieve it. And it's actually a quote from the wording there is a bit wrong. It's the Wolf of Wall Street. I don't know if you've seen that movie. Has anyone seen that movie? It's a movie by Leonardo DiCaprio. One of the quotes while they're talking there is this one, that the only thing standing between you and your goal is the bullshit story you keep telling yourself as to why you can't achieve it. And it's very true. You know, it explains about excuses, usually, rather than addressing the real problem, which in my opinion I think is the lack of motivation. Okay? We always go for an excuse at the end of it. You know, somehow you always have a reason why you couldn't do what you said you would do, isn't it? You know, at the end of the year, you would say, why didn't I do those things that I put down as New Year's resolutions? At the end of the day, you would have reasons why, excuses why I didn't do what I said I would do today. Okay? But the truth of the matter is, if you were motivated enough, you would have done it. Isn't it? I was listening to this guy. His name is Zig Ziglar. And he was giving this example, and he was talking about motivation, and he gave this example. He said, imagine if someone came to you and said, look, I've got 4 tickets to go to Acapulco. Okay? Acapulco Bay is one of the most famous holiday destinations, especially for the Americans. Okay? To go to. And say, I've got 4 tickets here. 2 for myself and my wife, and I've got the extra 2 that could be for you and your partner. Okay? And said, but that holiday we're actually flying out tomorrow at 10:45. Okay? So can you make it? Can you come with us to this holiday? Okay? Chances are most Americans would say yes, without even thinking about it. You've got 2 free vacation tickets for free, all paid for. You're going to live in $1 million mansion. Okay? So what do? What do? You get those tickets. Then you go to your wife and say, look, we've got free tickets to go on a holiday tomorrow. Okay? So you all very excited, you're like, oh, this is fantastic. But what will be the next question from the wife? But what about the things you are supposed to do? You've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things you're supposed to do by tomorrow, or maybe by the end of the following week. What's going to happen to that? Okay? So what's the next thing you do? You say, right, let's write things down. What is it that we're supposed to do? You write all those things down. So Mr. Zig Ziglar asked the audience and said, do you think this person or these people would achieve more in those 24 hours than they usually do? What do you think?
Possibly, yes. Trying to.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Not possibly, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, you've got things that need to be done and you really don't want to miss that holiday, so you have to get them done. Absolutely, these people will do a lot more, will cram a lot more in those 24 hours than they would normally do. Why? Because they are now motivated. They have got something that is going to happen in the next 24 hours. Do you understand? What he was trying to bring across is that sometimes we say, I don't have time, I couldn't do this because I didn't have time, I couldn't do that maybe because of this reason, I couldn't do this because maybe I was tired, I couldn't do this because maybe I was not feeling very well. All those excuses are usually relative. If you have good enough reason why you had to do something, you will do it regardless. Isn't it? If someone told you that if you go to London right now, you will get £10,000, would you say, no, I can't go because I have a headache? You won't, would you? But if I give you a call in the middle of nowhere and say, Ben, you know, I'm just going to London to, you know, just go to do a bit of sightseeing. And say, do you want to come with me? And you kind of feel a bit of headache. What are you going to say? I've got a headache, man. I'm just going to pass. You understand? It's like, what I'm trying to say is that you may have the same excuse, but if you have a reason enough why you need to do that thing, if you're motivated enough to do it, you would do it regardless, isn't it? Hence the quote, that the only thing standing between you and your goals is just that bullshit story you keep telling yourself as to why you can't achieve it. Let's move on. Now, when we're talking of motivation, I just wanted to highlight something that is quite common, especially in today's world. You know, we talk a lot about AIs, artificial intelligence, and there are lots of films these days that have been done, and it's a bit of a worry. Sometimes I sit with my wife and we talk about it, and I say, you know, it's almost like we are prophesying, we are craving for the world to be taken over by AIs, isn't it? There's so many films about AIs taking over the world, artificial intelligence and doing this, and then they rule over man, and men don't lose their control and become slaves to AIs and stuff like that. So I wanted to make a bit of a comparison between a human and artificial intelligence, because this is a real problem at the moment. I mean, you have big companies and big industries, especially in manufacturing industries, that they are replacing human workforce with AI, basically, with machines. Okay? And people are complaining, oh, machines can't do people's jobs, you know, people always do it better, they bring that human side of it, they bring the emotions to the work and this and that and everything. And people raise all sorts of concerns. And there is always a question that, does that mean that AIs are more intelligent than humans? I've got these two important questions here. Are AIs, as artificial intelligence, are AIs smarter than humans? What do we think? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think they're more intelligent than humans. Second question, why are machines, or the AIs, why are they more efficient and more productive than humans? Because the reason these factories and these companies and these manufacturing industries are using them is because they are more efficient and they are more productive. Okay?
Yeah,
so why are they more efficient? Why are they more
No
productive?
excuses, no questions asked. Do what they're set to do.
They don't have any other issues around them that would prohibit them to do the job, you know, because they're machines, isn't it?
No sick children, no salary,
no sick children, maybe.
no strike,
no strike, no stress,
No sick days.
no lateness,
no lateness,
you know.
no excuses.
Yeah, and
Can't question what the command you put him onto them. They just
You give them a command, they act.
happens. So they don't kind of reason, see I'm feeling lousy, you know, I had a fight with Mrs. last night, you know, that weather is not good.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No mood.
Absolutely. No mood, exactly. Because how many times do you go to work in a really foul mood and your productivity goes from that to like...
You press the button in the morning, it does the same. You press the button in the afternoon, it does the same. The work rate is just 100%. Press the button in the evening, the same.
Yes.
But if
you get 100% all the time until it breaks down. And then you repair it, and then you get 100%, isn't it? It's always about, if it works, it's 100%, isn't it? That's good. Humans require motivation to act, machines don't. Okay? That's true. We need motivation to act. Without motivation, you don't pay me salary, I don't come to work. You don't pay me enough, I don't come to work. You pay me and I don't feel very well, I don't come to work. You pay me and I have a party at home, I don't come to work. You pay me and you... whatever. But you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. So to an employer, to a business, they look at it and say, right, people are smarter. Maybe they can make better decisions under certain circumstances, but they need to be motivated. I need to even incur an extra cost of motivating them to keep their productivity up. Machines don't. Another one, machines have a perfect 100% action to intention ratio. Now this is something I've come up with, action to intention ratio. And it's I call it AI ratio, and I've called that way precisely because I was comparing it humans and AIs basically. And AIs have 100% action to intention ratio. Basically, what does that mean? It means that they, you know, when something is written, it does what it says on the tin. You know what I mean? It means they do exactly what they were meant to do, what they were intended to do. It means their action to intention ratio is 100%. If the intention was for it to do this, it will do this. If it is set to create, say, 100 pieces of whatever it is it's manufacturing in a certain set time, it will create 100 pieces of whatever it is manufacturing in that exact same time. You understand what I mean? It's always 100%. My, humans. Humans have a comparatively, and that is to be very modest, very low AI ratio. Okay? Action to intention ratio. You remember the first question that I asked? I said, how many times do you intend to do something? You say, I'm going to do something today, I'm going to do something this week, I'm going to do something this month, I'm going to do something this year, and you haven't actually done it. Or if you're going to count all the things that you said you would do and compare them against the things that you actually ended up doing. And that is not to even include the things that you do half-heartedly, you do not so well, the ratio is very low. To give you an idea, you remember we had this statistic, I think when we were doing the lesson on goal setting, if you remember, that 88% of New Year resolutions fail. Basically, it says that 88% of the resolutions that are made at the start of the year, come the end of the year, nothing has been done about them. You understand? That gives you a success rate of 12%. The AI ratio of 12%. That means only 12% of the intended intentions have actually been acted upon. Whether by little or completely, successfully, unsuccessfully. But if there is any action at all, it's only 12% of it. That's the average, based on the study in 2007 from Bristol University. So that gives you an idea that we, humans, naturally, we're just not good at following on our actions. Okay? There is a lot of room to improvement there, isn't it? With the machines, it's 100%. To improve that, you need to check the machine and get a brand new one, a newer model that does more. Okay? With us, we still have a lot to improve. There is still a lot locked up in there that we can actually improve and get better at what we're doing. Okay? Let's carry on. So what is self-motivation? Now, what I was going to say is that basically self-motivation is one of the tools that we could use to boost our AI ratio. Like I said before, the reason that we don't act on the things that we do, bottom line, is that we're not motivated enough to do it. based on the examples I gave you. That same scenario, same feeling, same excuse. In one case, you get to act. In the other one, you don't. You understand? What's the difference? In one case, you were motivated enough. In the other, you were not. Isn't it? So we see that motivation is key. It's very important. Now, what is self-motivation? One, it is the force that drives you to do things. Of course, we've known that by now. Okay? Motivation is what drives you. Second one, motivation is what pushes us to achieve our goals, feel more fulfilled, and improve the overall quality of life. It's just an expansion of that. And the next one says motivation is derived from the word motive in the English language, which is defined as a need that requires satisfaction. All you're trying to do when you're doing self-motivation, when you're motivating yourself, all you're trying to do, you're creating that need. You create that urge, that I need to do this, I have to do this. And that's what we're lacking. We're lacking that urge, that zeal. And to be able to self-motivate, we need to learn how to create that in us. Because if you can create that enough, you get that push to do the things you want to do. Do you understand? So many times we make plans, we make commitments, but we have failed on the art of creating that urge. That thing that will keep you going, that thing that will keep you moving. Okay? One guy called Darren Hardy, he had this quote. He says that commitment, okay, is when you do the things you say you would do when the reason or the feeling, the excitement that caused you to say it in the first place is long gone. Do you understand? During New Year's resolution, you come and say, you know what, at the start of the year with the excitement and this and that, you say, you know what, this year I'm going to shed 20 pounds. Very excited, yay! Come 6 months later when that excitement is gone and you're stuck with lots of other things. Commitment is if you kept your word and you're still pushing for those 20 pounds to come off without the excitement. Now, you cannot do that if you did not self-motivate. Because after the excitement is gone, you need to keep self-motivating yourself to be able to keep doing what you're doing. If you don't, you will always stop. And that's where we fail. We make plans, we make commitments, and when we're making those commitments, we are 100% sure that we're going to do it because of the excitement. But because we don't put provision for self-motivating ourselves, more often than not we fail. Okay? So you need to learn to create that need, that urge, that thing, that zeal that will keep pushing you towards the direction you're trying to go. Right. Now, what are the forces for action? No, we've already talked about motivation. That motivation is the thing that causes you to do the things you're meant to do or the things you want to do. Now, I've come up with this sort of like a comparison. In life, we always act, we always do different things. And in the simplest of terms, I mean there might be other forces and everything, and you can explain in all different ways, but in simple terms, you've got two forces, and they're like extremes of each other. One is the motivation, and the other one is necessity. That's just how it is in life. If you don't motivate yourself, you will still act. But the things you'll be acting on are the things of necessity, things that you can't do without, things that you have to. Don't know if you understand what I mean. You go to work not because you love your job so much, but because you need the money to pay your bills. Do you understand what I mean? So you're still doing something, not because you're motivated to do it, it's because you need to do it, you have to do it. I remember there was one time we were talking about, I can't remember what we were talking about, and we had this example about a cat. And so we say that if you corner a cat, and the cat realizes absolutely that there is no way out and that the cat is going to die, that cat will change into a lion. Figuratively, of course. The cat will fight back. Normally the cat will run away, but if cornered in a certain corner and realize that now it's do or die, it will fight back. It will overcome its fear, and it will fight. Do you understand? How many times have we been in a situation that you managed, because you were so pressured, you were so cornered in a situation, you managed to do things that at the end of it, you look back and you kind of think, my, how did I do that? It happens a lot of times. You know, it's almost like as humans we become almost like geniuses when there is no other option. When it's absolutely life and death situation, we do crazy things. Do you understand what I mean? Now the question is, how is it possible to tap into some of that energy? Because we know it's in there somehow, because somehow I managed to do that when I was pressured. Can I tap into that energy even before being cornered? Do you understand what I'm saying? If I can tap to it before I get cornered.
The corner is a catalyst, so you know you need to cut.
Now that's the question I'm saying. Can we have a different catalyst that will create the same effect? And it is the motivation. The problem is because we don't have the motivation. So sometimes the corner becomes the motivation. If I don't do this, I'm going to die. Do you understand what I'm saying, right? So I think there are only two forces. You're either motivated or you're doing things out of necessity. There are lots of different ways that this can be explained. Inspiration versus desperation. Brother Steve talked about this a while back. Inspiration and desperation. You act because you're inspired. That means there is something before you that is pushing you to go towards. There is a higher purpose, a higher goal. That's what inspiration is. Or it's desperation, which basically means you're looking back and it's like, I gotta run, otherwise I'm gonna be eaten. You understand what I mean? It's always those two things. You know, others would say excitement and fear. Still the same thing. You understand? Positive versus negative reinforcement. Reward versus punishment. Same concept. Now this is I wrote it here because it's a very popular, basically this is what they use in behavior management. Reward versus punishment. It was developed by B.F. Skinner. He called it operant conditioning. You know, two types of conditioning. Classic conditioning, you know the classic conditioning, right? You know the dog experiment.
Yeah.
The dog experiment, you ring a bell and give the dog the food. And then you keep doing that long enough to a point that when you don't even give the food, you just ring the bell, the dog develops the same reaction, the salivation and everything, as if it's going to get the food. Understand? That's called classic conditioning. That is really not of so much use when it comes to behavior development. But it's the original, it's like the pioneering idea when it comes to the psychology of conditioning. But then B.F. Skinner came up with operant conditioning, which is more useful to humans, especially in behavior control, which is basically the positive and negative reinforcement, the reward and punishment scheme, which can be used in lots of different settings. And even when it comes to motivation, it's the same thing, because motivation basically is positive reinforcement. Necessity